had someone reach out and order their Thanksgiving order with me last week, and she put a note in there that said, "Thank you for being part of our family tradition." So my grandmother taught me to love to be in the kitchen, and she taught me if you love people, you feed them.
This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, Luke Henry here. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast. Thanks so much for being back with us. This is episode 21, and I'm happy to continue to grow our community and listeners. Thanks so much for tuning in again. So I'm excited to be back with a guest today, and today I have Leiha Lamb. Good morning, Leiha.
Good morning.
Howdy. So Leiha owns The Nest and Yellow Finch Charcuterie and Catering, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her kind of new venture here. She's expanded. She's doubled down on this business and is here in downtown Marion. So I'm excited to hear her story and share it with our listeners today. So thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
So if someone hasn't yet been into The Nest or worked with you, Yellow Finch, tell us a little bit about, what those businesses are.
Okay. Yellow Finch Creations is a charcuterie and catering. And we do all kinds of events from box lunches to weddings. The Nest is our newest venture, and it is a small event space in downtown Marion.
Yeah, so great space at that. Really cool exposed brick, cool floor, ceilings, like just that authentic historic building vibe in there. And you can accommodate up to about 50, is that right?
50, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm excited to hear kind of where you got from there to here, because I've always known you through our professional affiliations through the chamber and different things through the years and all my time in Marion as a banker.
Right.
And so let's kind of talk a little bit about your story and how, again, you got from doing that to now running this business full time. And so tell us a little more. I mean, let's kind of even start back. You're from Marion.
Right.
And so tell us, kind of your whole story starting back.
Born and raised in Marion. My family's been in the restaurant industry for a billion years. Okay. Actually, the building we're in is the old Whitey's building, which Leiha Lamb was my great-great-grandfather.
Oh,
so
wow.
Kind of a good history behind that.
Wow, that's wild.
I really enjoy being in the kitchen, cooking, all of that sort of thing. Started the business, kind of always cooked for my friends and family. Started doing this a little bit part-time. Been doing it for 3 years with the catering. In October, I actually separated from the banking world, which was a big step, position eliminated, and kind of now let's jump 2 feet into something that brings me joy and I have passion for. So now just running full-fledged ahead on that, and kind of worked out right when we started the Nest. So it all kind of worked out in sync, and that's where we're going.
Yeah. It's interesting how things can sometimes line up like that, that you had the opportunity to take over the whole space.
Right.
You were just located in there with another business and had the opportunity to take over the whole space in June or so,
the end
right?
of June. Yep.
And so that was probably a lot at the time. You're kind of looking at it like, well, here's this opportunity.
Right.
We want to take it, but
Right.
yet also still working this full-time banking job.
Right.
And then that sort of took care of itself a few months later.
Right. Right.
And you had this opportunity to really like go full force into.
Yeah. When we had the opportunity to take over the space, I asked my fiance, I'm like, do you think we could, do something else with this? And we talked through it, and he said, let's do it, go for it. And put a lot of work in there, changed some things, and we're really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. So, I mean, you make this seem like no big deal, just pick this up and start doing it. And then, had the opportunity to go a little bigger on it. But I know that in most cases, there's a lot more to it than that. And I know that you've worked very hard to make it what it is. And so, we always do this leap segment whenever I interview someone. And so I'd love to dig in a little bit more to some of the like emotions around that and some of the decisions and just what all went into first of all, like starting it, going from, hey, I like to cook for my family and friends to I'm going to make a business out of this. Tell us like a little more deeply into that, how that happened.
Right. So it's funny. My mom said that I started this in high school because she was a deli bakery manager at Food Town for a billion years. And in high school, I would go do their deli trays.
Okay.
So my mom said that's where I got the start, but we'll let her have that.
Have that.
Every time a friend had a party, they would always say, would you do the food? Or you do such a good job. You're so creative. And I was sitting down with my best friend and, making a charcuterie board. And she goes, you should do this. And I'm like a job? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't know. That sounds like a lot of work. And she said, growth never happens comfortably.
Right.
Just do it. And I said, okay. And lucky for me, she is in marketing and she's amazing. So she was like, here's a logo and here's all these things. So she helped me just kind of take my dream and make it a reality and make it an actual, business instead of, she said, you do this for people all the time. You should definitely get paid for it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of how it started, and kind of took that leap of faith and jumped in, and it's been great.
Yeah. So with that logo and with some idea about what you were going to offer, you just put it out there on social media. I mean, how did you start booking?
Yep, I did
gigs?
Right before Thanksgiving, my first year, and I worked out of a shared kitchen that my grandfather owned, and kind of put it out there on social media. Got quite a few orders, and then it grew from there. The next year on Thanksgiving, I had about 5 times the orders that I had the year before. So it's definitely grown, and we had to make a lot of changes, going forward, and learned a lot about what works great, what didn't work, and just kind of tweak things and move forward. And it's kind of cool. I had someone reach out and order for this year for Thanksgiving and said, so excited that you're part of our family tradition. So that was a really cool thing to hear.
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah. And I want to dig more into some of the pivots and challenges that you've encountered. But before we do that, I mean, again, just going back, you sort of just kind of glaze over some of the details that I know happened because we had some conversation around this at the time, which is a lot of folks may not know that you can't do this out of your home.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So this, because you're slicing and preparing and doing certain things that kind of trigger certain health department requirements.
Right.
This is a business that you can't do out of your home. Whereas baking and some things you are able to do through the cottage laws or whatever out of your home. But this one you can't. And so you had to seek out a commercial kitchen that's been licensed and is inspected regularly by the health department and all of that.
Yeah.
And so you're doing this in a pizza place.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and again, I mean, that took some creativity to see that opportunity to say, I'm not going to be deterred by the fact that this is difficult and just, can't just be done out of my home kitchen, but I'm going to look for a partnership to be able to do this. I mean, so just in that, I mean, how did that kind of come about? And what challenges were presented in the early days with trying to, flex around their schedule.
It was difficult. My dad's been super helpful. He's kind of, because when I started this, I knew how to make things pretty, but I didn't know how to order and what I needed and all of that sort of stuff, which is a whole lot to figure out.
Right.
So starting flexing around their hours, I just did, orders on holidays and certain things, and it wasn't as flexible as I have now. So I definitely, my grandfather had passed away, and then I was like, okay, now what do? I have to find something.
So you can no longer be at that place that you were at the pizza place, right?
Yeah. And I knew that was coming up. So I had to search out another location. And that's when I moved into the space I'm in now. After, you and I had talked looking for a space, and it is hard to find a small space. And it does take some work to find something that's right for you.
Yeah. But you just got to keep looking, keep putting hooks in the water, if you will, right? And just letting people know, talking with everybody you can, and calling people up and figuring it out.
Right.
That's the entrepreneurial way. I think that so often people are deterred or frustrated when they hit a little bit of opposition with trying to launch new business, but that's kind of par for the course.
Right.
I think is what we're saying here, right? And I've heard that story from lots of people and experienced it myself as well. I mean, you're going to hit those ceilings, but have to figure out ways to.
Right. And especially when you're starting out, and, this was just, wasn't something I had planned for and saved for, and, for a long time, and had the money to go out and, buy a building and commercial kitchen myself. Right. So we had to definitely look for something that fit.
Yeah. Yeah. And in both cases, I mean, you found something and have been able to make it work. So, and then, really, I feel like you took the phase 2 leap here with the opportunity that came up in June, where, again, kind of faced with a transition point, it was like, well, we're either going to have to fold up or take over this whole space or go look for something again.
Right.
So tell us a little more about that as well, the emotions and some of the decisions and conversations you had to make that next leap.
Yeah. I'm thankful that, James and Lily Lloyd, that own the building I'm in, they said, we love you. We want you here. I asked my fiance, I said, do you think we could make this work? Can we do something? And he said, let's go for it. So I kind of talked to them, and they loved the idea. So we changed some things, made it look the way we wanted to. And, then had to rethink a whole new business plan, because now we have the rental venue, which works perfectly for what we do. We have classes and things in there now, so it works better. It is nice to have a full space that I can utilize. But it was definitely a transition that wasn't easy, but we leaned on other business owners, had a lot of questions, had friends come over and give their opinion, and that was really valuable.
Yeah. What is some of that feedback that you got through having other people into the space and just asking them their opinions that helped shape what the business became?
A lot of people, local business owners came over and took a look and said, I really like how you did this. What about, doing this? Everybody wants to stop in and take a peek. I've had a ton of people send referrals for us because they know it's a nice space to use. But it's been nice having other people everybody's been super helpful, giving ideas and lending a hand if needed. So it was really nice.
I think another lesson in there that is that took me a while as I look back on my journey to really recognize, and that is that people are often very willing to help if you ask.
For sure.
And I think having the humility to go out and ask for people's opinions, people's help, can just accelerate a business so quickly, faster than trying to come up with all the ideas on your own. And so, well done from that perspective, learning that lesson early to allow people to help you.
Well, and there's no reason to recreate the wheel. You know, if somebody is doing it great and they have a successful business, tapping into their knowledge and opinions is very important.
Yeah. 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 Anyone that really like came to you in that season that helped accelerate that more than others?
Yeah, Derek and Andrea that own Shovel City have been fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I said, James and Lily Lloyd have been great with helping do those sort of things. So.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, your business neighbors there essentially. And I have, I agree. I mean, I see a high degree of collaboration and cooperation, within the downtown Marion community, everyone genuinely wanting each other to succeed.
I agree.
And even in like somewhat competitive businesses,
Right.
it's really remarkable to me to just see people helping each other out, people that have restaurants helping other restaurants, or people that have, drinkeries helping other people that are starting those exact same businesses. And it'd be very easy for them to say, hey, you're a competitive business, I don't want to see you succeed. But yet they are, because there is, I think there, as you mature in business, you see that there's opportunities for all different types, and one business can't be all things to all people.
Right.
And so there is room in the marketplace for more, and it makes us better too. I know that I've heard that from a lot of businesses.
And when we work together, if you're somewhere, hey, have you checked out, Elaine and Renee, go down there, or Maddie's on Main. We, we're all really good too about telling each other to check out the other places in town, and that's been really good too. Yeah,
yeah. Once again, just the idea that a rising tide raises all ships is so true, as we're really seeking to build the downtown community and get people into more of the new places. We were talking before we got on air that one of the biggest challenges is just people keeping up with what all new is happening, the new places that are opening and places that are expanding, or expanding hours, or expanding offerings. And it can be challenging to make sure that everybody knows that. So we're all working together. It's a lot easier.
Oh, for sure.
So you mentioned a little bit about some of the challenges and pivots that you've had through this process. I mean, can you take us through some of those specifically? I'm thinking of the person especially that's out there. Again, maybe they're not yet, maybe they haven't yet started a business and they're scared to do so, or maybe they're early on in business and they're just frustrated with some of the roadblocks that they're hitting. Talk to us about some of those things that have come up for you and how you've overcome them.
I think just where to start. There's so many things that go into, just for instance, catering. You have to know where to get good products, and you have to know, supplies and all of those sort of things. It's not just putting together, a beautiful charcuterie board. So trying to figure out all those, what suppliers to use, and all of those sort of things were a huge challenge. I like working locally. Sometimes it felt like those things seemed a little more expensive, but when you look, I use a North Charcuterie. They just changed their name, and they, I could go pick up an order today, opposed to wait in their local, and you get a good product. So figuring out those things that'll work for your business. But it's a lot to sit down, I would say working with someone that knows, from being in banking and working with a lot of business owners, I know, writing a business plan and going forward, how to have those things all planned out. But once you get in there, it's a lot harder to navigate than you thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think that things you learned in banking and some of the relationships, like, did those transfer to this new business?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about that a little bit. Like, what did you learn in your banking life that has crossed over to now this business venture?
Yeah, I would have people come and sit in my office and say, I want to start a business. Okay, well, what kind of business? Well, I don't know. But, you have to have a solid plan, and working through, a business plan. And not only that, how are we going to make money? Because it's lovely to have a business, but you have to make money, or if it's not profitable, it's not really working. So trying to talk people through, what your expenses are and, where to even start. And did you think about if you're going to build a new building, there's all these fees and architect plans. And so people oftentimes have big ideas. They just don't know how to push it forward. So I always loved getting those people in front of me, sit down with them and, let's make a plan how to go forward. So that was something I really enjoyed doing.
But it's different when it's you.
Right. Yeah. There was no one there like, hey, what do I do?
Yeah.
But there's so many resources. I did the minority business owners class that the chamber had. So many resources out there for business owners to tap into financially or, just knowing what to do. There's so many resources out there for people to use too.
Would you share a few of those that came up?
Yeah. The lending that you can get through the, like a women-owned business. There's a few hoops to jump through to get registered for that, but it's not really that hard. But then you have opportunity to get lending at a cheaper, interest rate. And there's down payment assistance and things like that were really good to know that were available.
Absolutely. Yeah. Other resources that you learned there, that any of them that you heard of and didn't use or that you did tap into?
I did refer a lot of, I had clients that were veterans and there was great programs for them. The SBA has tons of, options out there, and that's where I would refer people to. If you want to know how to start a business, from A to Z, tapping into that, it will tell you how to write a business plan and where to move forward. And there's tons of resources out there for that.
Yeah. I would refer people to the Small Business Development Centers, SBDC. That's kind of the local arm of the SBA.
Right.
And we actually just did a Bagels and Business at Connect Co-works with Mickey Schneider that runs that for our local area here, and she helps a lot. She's helped a lot of folks locally, and in partnership with like the Forge, write business plans and some of that. And I know that you saw some of those business plans that came out of the Forge and stuff, because again, I know that we talked about that at one point, that you were working with someone on lending on some of those things, and so that's really great. One thing that when I talk with Mickey from the SBDC and then also our local like SBA group, they all said like, all right, now let's just get the G word out of the way here. Grants. Like everybody thinks like, oh, if you're starting a business or buying a building, like there must be grants out there, like free money. No. Right.
No. Yeah.
Right. There are loans and there are, some financing assistance or, great local lenders, whether banks or credit unions, that will work if you have a solid plan of how you're going to make money, that will work with you. But yeah, there's no free lunches out there, right?
No.
It's interesting. I mean, just thinking about, as you're kind of talking about like your banking life, I've learned so much about working with banks through business. And talk, if you wouldn't mind, again, I know there's a past life for you, but you're kind of like this wonderful crossover of, banking into small business now, that people, I just don't think understand that like banks aren't looking for speculative investments. Like people have to go, if they're looking for lending, there has to be a pretty airtight plan of how the bank is going to get paid back. Right.
For sure.
I mean, talk a little bit more about like kind of what you might counsel someone if they were like, hey, I have a business idea, I need some money. What do I do?
Right. You have to have a little skin in the game. So I always tell people, if you're thinking about it, you have to get your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Make a plan, figure out, how much money do I need to make what I need to be profitable.
Yeah.
So, getting all those things figured out before you jump into something and figure out, and a bank says, no, this isn't going to work. What might not work now, but try to figure out all those things and get everything in a line to when you're ready. Having a good business mentor, like you mentioned, to work with locally that would, kind of walk you through all of those things. People definitely start small businesses all the time.
Yeah.
It's just having all those things in order.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between being ready to be a business owner and having an idea.
Yes.
But you can definitely take your idea and move it forward if you have the right resources and such to move forward.
Yeah. I've often suggested to people that if they can do something that like helps them establish like a minimally viable product or concept, that's like so helpful. Like for you, you started on the side doing this, and you build up a clientele, and you like had a proven revenue model, and you knew what you made, per event or board or whatever. And then once you needed to take the leap to something bigger, if you needed to go to a lender and say, hey, I need furniture, fixtures, and commercial kitchen equipment, and I need $50,000, it'd be a lot easier for you to make that case.
Right.
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 So whenever people can do that, I assume that you would probably recommend that as well. Like start small. Like you don't need to like go to the major leagues like right off the bat.
Right. Because that's, setting yourself up for a lot of stress and possibly failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jumping in over your head's definitely not ever a good idea.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's one thing, if you are learning and you do a gig and you like don't make any money on it because you underpriced it. It's a different thing when that happens like 10 times and you've got $1,000 a month, equipment payment and a $2,000 rent payment and $500 in utilities and everything else. Like it can snowball very quickly.
Yeah. And I did a lot of that learning as I go, trying to figure out things. And there were a lot of things that I did at the beginning that I did not make much money on.
Right.
But it helped me understand what I needed to do better.
Yes. Nothing teaches you like something that hits your checkbook.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's small business 101, School of Hard Knocks. Right.
Right.
So that's great. So shifting back to your business, I appreciate the little banking aside there. We've not had any guests talk about that specifically, but that's really helpful, I think, to somebody out there that's considering something. But, tell us a little bit about, we talked about some of the challenges and pivots. I mean, what are some of the kind of unexpected, like good moments, joy or fulfillment that you found in doing this business that you didn't maybe necessarily expect?
Yeah. What I told you before we started, I had someone reach out and order their Thanksgiving order with me last week. And she put a note in there that said, thank you for being part of our family tradition. So my grandmother taught me to love to be in the kitchen. And she taught me if you love people, you feed them. So that's kind of normally if you have a lot of food, no matter it's for a funeral or a wedding, people are together and they're enjoying each other's company. And that's kind of where my love for this started, kind of knowing that it's bringing joy to people.
Yeah. It is incredible. I mean, hospitality and events and food, can be very stressful businesses, very challenging sometimes, but also so fulfilling.
Right.
Because you're with people on some of their best and worst days.
Right.
And you have the opportunity to really be, a shining light in those moments to help through this gift that you're giving through food and space. And that's really cool.
And then recently we had a friend of mine came to me and said, I have a friend that's getting married and she found an out-of-town caterer, super expensive, but she kind of wanted to work with you and didn't know what to do. And she hadn't paid for her full catering yet. And we talked about it and I kind of gave her some options and she said, I really wish I would have known you were here and I could have worked with you. But she wanted a few things that I can't do. I don't do hot items, but I worked with another local caterer and we actually were able to help her much better than she was going to get from an out-of-town person that she had no real connection with. It was just a very large company that dropped it off and went and didn't really care that it, everything looked perfect for their wedding. So she was very thankful that we could do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. Just, and it reminds me again, just the importance of continuing to get the word out about all of our fantastic local businesses we have here, and the ability to meet most needs
Right.
Right here in our own community and not have to go elsewhere. Right. So that's awesome. What are you most proud of as you kind of look back over this journey? And I mean, in the grand scheme, I think you're just getting started, but really starting to hit your stride here. But what's something you're proud of?
I'm proud that I can give something to our community that makes them happy. Like we just talked about, not having to go somewhere else. Very proud of the fact that my children see me, doing something and succeeding. And, when my parents and my fiance and my children tell me all the time, I'm so proud of you. That's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think them seeing that I'm succeeding and doing something, not having a job that I have to go to 9 to 5 just to bring home a paycheck, but something that actually allows me to be happy and then bring joy to other people. And I think that's really my proud thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Really love that. Have you spoken about this, more as a family, are your children helping at all in the business, or, tell me a little more about that.
So Chad and I have 4 kids between us. My daughter has moved to Florida, but she came home. And when she was home, anything I had going on, can I go with you? Can I help you? And she had a blast. My son Lane is a senior in high school.
Okay.
He's over there all the time helping me. And surprisingly, he could put together a grazing table and it would look great. So, awesome. And that had him, love being in the kitchen too. Yeah. And then our other daughter, Kaisa, she's helped me with a couple events and loves it. So it's been, and then the boys all helped, put the shop together, and our other son, Kai, does photography. So he took the pictures. So everybody's kind of had a hand in getting everything together, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it is. We've often commented in our family that just some of our best family moments have been when we're working together, right. And especially working together in service of a greater good, right. Or a client or something. Right. And so it sounds like you're experiencing that as well. And yeah. I mean, what great experience for them, not only getting that work, I say that everyone should have to work in food or retail as a younger person. There's just so many important, helpful, real life skills that they learn in doing that, right? But also to see, as you said, see you going out, taking this risk, doing something, and seeing that path of entrepreneurship too.
Right.
It's really exciting when younger people can see, hey, some people, it works for them to go out and work a 9-to-5 job. Some people just aren't really cut out for that.
Right.
Some of us are certifiably unemployable because we're just, entrepreneurs too deep in ourselves. And if you don't know that option exists, you can kind of spin your wheels a lot.
Right.
Trying to kind of fit into the traditional employment box.
Yeah. And we talk about you have to be a good leader, you have to learn to serve.
Yes.
So we talk about that a lot at our house.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely love that. And so then you and Chad have worked together along this journey as well. And that's something we've talked about on a few other podcasts, that dynamic. And that can be challenging, right?
Yeah, we still love each other. So it's funny when we were doing things, I have a vision. I'm not a put it together person. So I want this to look this way. And he's like, well, babe, that doesn't really work like that. But we found a way to figure it out. And he's been super helpful and definitely my biggest cheerleader.
Yeah. That's, again, just so important, and a pattern that I've heard on so many of these interviews, just where it's so critical to have that family support.
Oh, for sure. And if you don't, there's times where I have a huge event and I have to be late for something or someone has to come help me. And my family's very understanding of that and very helpful.
Yeah.
So
it just has to be that way. You know,
Right.
I mean, it's just the small business mindset, and, you know, sometimes like the buck stops with you. And if
Right.
you're supposed to have help and they call off or don't show up or something goes sideways at the event, like, it's up to you to fix it.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes that impacts or spills over to personal time or events or
Right.
whatever. And so, yeah, that family understanding is so critical.
Oh, yeah.
So that's awesome. You learn about a lot about each other as you're working together too.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you have a great dynamic. I mean, again, that's just what I've seen in a lot of successful businesses, where you have that visionary person and then the person that gets it done.
Yeah. Right.
You know, you got to have somebody that could kind of cut that into bite-sized pieces.
Right.
So great. You know, as you look around downtown Marion, we talked a little bit about this and just the cooperation and collaboration. I mean, what are some things that you see and what are you excited about for, you know, the downtown community as a whole?
Yeah. Something that we've started doing, if we don't have events rented at the Nest, we've been doing some pop-up shops. That has allowed me to have some local vendors that don't necessarily have a storefront or a presence other than online, able to help them out. So that's been a good feeling. We have a couple more that we'll be doing before the holidays, some shopping events. So that's been nice to help people with that. It's nice to see. I brought my cousin over, like I told you, and we took a walk downtown and just, you know, popping in different places and talking to people and just everybody's support and working together on different events and different things and everybody being really helpful to each other. I think getting people downtown to see all the wonderful things that we have. Every time someone comes into the Nest, I always say, have you stopped next door to Fable? Because they just opened, and it's nice to share the joy of other people and, you know, their businesses with them too. Yeah,
that is great. Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, through the years, you know, we did some pop-up shops in the early days of the downtown kind of renaissance here as well. And some of those pop-up shop vendors have turned into downtown business owners.
Right.
So, and others that have inspired someone to do their own thing, or maybe one of the downtown businesses now carry their line.
Right.
And so, you know, those can be great collaboration opportunities as well. So,
I agree.
So that's really fun. Yeah, I love seeing that cooperation. So if there's somebody out there that is considering taking a leap into a new venture, I mean, what is some advice you'd share from your story and your experience here?
Find someone that's doing it well and figure out what they're doing. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean I'll copy everything you're doing and call it my own, but looking at other people that do great things and kind of how they run their business, just do a lot of research. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Like we said before, don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for people's opinion. You know, ask around. Do you think that this product or this idea would be a good thing for our area? Because there's a lot of great ideas, but it might not be something that fits in our community well. But there's a lot of things that would be great for our community and we would love to have here. And if someone did take that leap, it would be great to have some other things.
Yeah. I think that's really well said. I think that people just have to be willing to put themselves out there a little bit and, you know, not kind of like scheme and think and plan in silence or in private, but rather get out there and try to socialize the idea, and people generally are going to try to help make it better.
Yeah. And then they'll, you know, be so happy to tell people, hey, you know, so-and-so is doing this now. And I think just not being afraid to ask for help is the biggest thing. Yeah. You're building your team of cheerleaders before the place even opens. Exactly.
So, what about, as you've been learning, your favorite inspirational or educational resource? I mean, again, I know you pointed to people and kind of mentors and all of that. Has there also been something that you've discovered, podcast or YouTube channel or book, or something that's helped you a lot through the process?
And I was reading over these questions that we might talk about, and that was something that popped up. And you know what? I am a self-help junkie, and there's not one thing, that I would narrow down on other than, one quote that I tell this in my personal life. And, Rachel Hollis said, other people's opinion of you is none of your business. Everyone might not be your biggest fan, and that's okay. You have to, keep going and doing what you're doing and not worry about the naysayers, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. And just keeping a positive outlook on, I love hearing things that people, inspirational quotes and just things to keep going, and just things that make you happy. So there's not necessarily one thing I, focus in on, but anytime I will hop on a podcast and listen to a self-help, whatever, just how to be happy and how to be successful. All of those things, are always good to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's going to be some dark days. And I think that we have to recognize that, like, my joy is my job, in terms of like having to
Right.
pick myself up on those tough days, and, to have some go-to, whether it's mantras or quotes on sticky notes, or a YouTube thing that you listen to
Right.
to kind of jazz you back up. We've got to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Because there's tough times.
Yeah. Just,
in small business.
And not listen. I am big on, I don't want to hear all the bad things that are happening. Anything that I can hear that brings you up and makes you happy and keeps you positive is something I'm definitely for.
Absolutely. We need more of that, for sure. Well, I think that I've loved hearing your story, and loved just hearing the whole progression of how this is all built together to be what it is, and continuing to grow and expand in the future. Really, we're only a handful of months into this, kind of expanded venture. So it seems like onward and upward from here. I mean, you were sharing before we went on air, I mean, some of the big catering opportunities that you have coming up, and just a lot of really cool stuff going on. So
yeah.
I'm cheering for that. So I'd ask you to kind of put a capper on it here, in terms of telling us again, if somebody's out there, they've never heard of you before, where can they find you? Where can they keep up with what's going on and all of that?
Yeah, we are located at 119 West Huber Street, Suite A. We are on social media, best place to keep up to date on things. We like to have the pop-ups and carry out lunch specials and things like that if the space is not rented. So we'll try to put those out there. So just keep an eye out on those sort of things. And the Pink Weekend, we're definitely going to be open for that. And we do have some retail items and some gift baskets for Christmas. We do custom gift baskets. So just watch social media. We always post on Facebook, especially when we're going to be opened, and different things going on.
Yeah. Love that. So, so be sure to follow on social media. It's under Yellow Finch Creations.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so keep an eye there. And the West Huber Street kind of like throws people off. It's really like North Main Street.
Right. It's right behind the Fahey Bank drive-through.
Right. Yeah, right behind the Fahey Bank drive-through. So if people are like, where the heck is Huber Street?
Yeah.
Yep. It's, if you got to the railroad tracks, you're
went
too far.
Yeah.
So right there. So check you out, as you said, Fable Bar, just right next door. Their team's going to be on our next podcast, so folks can look forward to hearing their whole story as well. So, Leiha, thanks so much for being with us here. Loved hearing your story and just being able to share it with folks here locally, as well as those that listen that are not here, and hopefully found some education or inspiration from hearing your story. So to our audience, thanks so much for tuning in once again. I sure appreciate all of your continued feedback and support, and we hope to see you again on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.